Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Village of Altamont Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. Tonight is March 26th, 2024 at 7 p.m. For the record, all the audio and video portions of this meeting will be recorded. My name is Deborah Hext. I am the Zoning Board Chair, and I would like any member of our there we go.
My bad.
Hello. Each member of the zoning board to please introduce themselves, starting with Danny.
Danny Ramirez.
Simon Litton.
Lori Penzi. I'm Allison Phillips, counsel to the ZBA.
Robert Freeman.
Andrea Witham.
Charles Trout.
Thank you. Also with us tonight, we have Ginger Hanna, our ZBA secretary, and Gary Goss, our building inspector. Tonight is a public hearing, so the public will be allowed to speak. Just a few things to fix things up here a little. We will not be making a decision tonight. This will not be a question and answer session. What we would like everyone to do is come up, state your concerns, ask your questions. We would like then the board to review your questions, have our applicant review the questions, and at the next meeting, come back with written answers to any questions or concerns. We'll also at that time have our engineer, Brad Grant, review everyone's questions and answers and see what we can come up with. But tonight, there will be no decision. Depending on how it goes, we may even keep the public hearing open. Just depends on how it goes. So with that, Allison, would you read the legal notice, and that will open the public hearing.
Public notice of hearing before the Zoning Board of Appeals. Please take notice that the Village of Altamont Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on March 26, 2004 at 7 p.m. at the Altamont Village Community Room, 115 Main Street, Altamont, New York, to hear all interested persons on the proposed application of CM Fox Living Solutions, LLC, for a major subdivision. The property is identified as SBL 37.14-3-6.1 and is located on the northerly side of New York State Route 397, Western Avenue, and Schoharie Plank Road West intersection. It is the Village R15 zoning district. The major subdivision is proposed by the applicant and would convert a 13.01 acre vacant lot into 11 buildable lots for single-family homes to be constructed. The applicant proposes to build a total of 10 residences on the newly created lots. One of the lots is already improved with an existing single-family home. All persons desiring to speak either on behalf of or in opposition to said proposed major subdivision shall be heard by either attending the public hearing or by submitting written comments in advance of the public hearing to the ZBA secretary. Copies of the application materials are available for review at the offices of the village clerk, located at 115 Main Street, Altamont, New York, during normal business hours, and will be available on the village website by March 22nd. Dated March 5th, 2004.
Thank you, Allison. Okay, that opens the public hearing. I would invite whomever would like to speak to come up to the microphone, state your name, and if you'd like to, give your address. So have at it. First. I think that microphone's on, but just.
Testing.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Joe Connors. I live at 6393 Gun Club Road with my wife, Jaya Connors. She couldn't be here. She's out of town today. She didn't get a chance to review any amendments to the materials that were added today, so I'd ask that that be something to be considered in the future, that she has a chance to review any amendments that were added today to the subdivision plan. Our property is adjacent to lots 1, 2, 6, and 7 of the proposed subdivision. The tip of lot 7 hits our property, but the other lots 1, 2, and 6 clearly have adjacent lines with our property. Our position is that the subdivision should not be approved as proposed. I'll start with some easy fixes to the proposal. One, a landscaping buffer of evergreens along the back of the property along our property line, which is adjacent to 1, 2, 6, and 7. The subdivision plan is currently proposed, offers the courtesy of this buffer along proposed shared driveways or roads, whatever term is used, but not along the rear of the properties. We ask that it be extended to the other neighbors, including us. There is a line of old locust and maple trees along the back part of the proposed subdivision, but without winter leaves, they're insufficient to provide a barrier. We propose that native evergreens be used, such as eastern white pines. They could be added to C-130, page 2 of 12 on the proposal. You can see where some evergreens are allowed along the driveways, but not along the rear property lines. This could be on a berm behind the vegetated swale that's currently proposed at the rear of lots 1 and 2. The second easy-to-fix concern is the vegetated swale should be populated by native species plants. I'd ask that that be something the board consider adding. Another fix is one that was proposed by some of the engineering reports, that there be no basement on the house on lot number 1. I can tell you from personal experience how wet it is back there, even with 2 sump pumps in our basement. It's going to be an additional energy drain. They're constantly running, and there's bound to be water in the basement of that house. The fourth easy fix is that the subdivision maps be amended to include turnaround areas in the driveway roads leading into the proposed houses for public safety and fire safety concerns. The second set of concerns are more difficult, and they go to the merits of whether or not the subdivision should be proposed in the first instance. I commend for the board's review 2 previous letters that my wife and I submitted to the zoning board at the time of the consideration of the variances. I ask that they be made part of the record in this proceeding. We maintain that remains a significant issue about the frontage of lots for 1 through 3 as required under current zoning law. We understand that there was a proposed land sale with a neighbor to extend the frontage. We're not sure if that deal went through or not. There's no record of it in the currently public posted materials. If it's not finalized, then we suggest that the seller of that land needs to be a party to the subdivision request, because that land is crucial to opening up the keyhole lot. If that sale of land is finalized, we nonetheless maintain that it shouldn't be condoned by the board. It sets up a situation where neighbors can strike private deals that violate current zoning laws. They can say, well, I'll sell you a strip of land, then it can open up a whole new possibilities to the detriment of neighbors. That's not what the zoning laws are there for. So we ask you to take a hard look and make specific findings on that issue.
Was that where they were going to make a lot line adjustment? Is that the one you're
Right,
referring to?
right. I don't know if it went through or not, But we say that the board shouldn't condone that type of private dealing that's in violation of the current zoning laws that require a specific amount of frontage. Zoning laws that were relied on by us in buying the property, zoning laws that the record indicates other neighbors also relied on. They didn't expect these keyhole lots to be opened up through private deals contrary to existing law. The other procedural issues that we ask that you address in your final decision is whether or not the county and Guilderland has been involved with further environmental impact assessments. That was discussed at the variance stage, and representations were made that there were going to be additional environmental assessments at this stage of the process. So we'd ask for an update on that. We'd also ask for an update on whether or not the state or county Department of Health has approved the subdivision plan, and specific findings on how the board has considered how the subdivision fits in with the village and town comprehensive plan, especially the recent work that the town of Guilderland has done about preserving border areas along the town and the important nature of those areas. So thank you for your consideration, service on the board.
Thank you, Mr. Connors.
I have a question, if I might. Do you have the dates of those two letters you referred to earlier on?
Off the top of my head, I don't, but if you hold the record open, I could get them within 24 hours to the
Okay, thank you.
board.
These are the letters submitted during the public hearing on the variances.
That's right. We ask that they be adopted and considered here as well.
We do have those letters, so we can incorporate them in the record.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Johnson. I live at 717 Schoharie Plank Road West. I'm one of those houses that supposedly is in a floodplain zone, and the road supposedly is going through the floodplain zone between two of our houses, 115 and 117. At this point in time, when the creek gets high, there's a storm drain on the left-hand side of the corner of my property. I don't even know if it's in my property, but it's down there. And my sump pump kicks in, but when the creek gets high, it backfeeds through the storm drain. When it backfeeds through the storm drain, it feeds into his property. You'll see where it runs and runs right down. I've stepped down in there without even it raining, and it's this high.
When you say his property, what are you referring to?
Where Mr. Miller would like to put the road in.
So you're talking about the access road that's coming
Correct.
onto West Schoharie Plank?
Correct. It does this. It starts here where it meets the street, there's a street down, and then it drops. When it drops, if you walked it, it goes, and it comes down. If the creek overflows, it comes down through the field and comes into the back part of that property down to the storm drain. But the storm drain, when it backs up from the creek, it goes backwards. It goes back into that property where that dip is. It's a natural way of flowing. I built a berm that's this high. And then you got that big gully, and then it goes right to the storm drain. But if you walk his property back, you'll see a 4 or 5 foot drop, because Eve Kiltz had Phil brought in by the foxes because he worked for NIMO. So he caused himself to be flooded out. I think I pointed that out once before standing here. But even the little rainstorm we had a couple weeks ago, the storm drain backed up. And my sump pump comes out into that storm drain. My house was built in the 50s. They put the sump pumps in to the storm drain. So if that storm drain gets altered by anyone, it's gonna alter my sump pump going to that. It's cemented in that storm drain.
Does any other person's sub pump go into that one storm drain that you know of?
No,
Just you?
just me.
Okay.
The rest of it has storm drains going across the street. It goes into other storm drains, like Deb Katz runs down.
Is Deb's the one that bubbles all the time?
Yes,
Okay.
that goes into a different storm drain. But my storm drain just can't handle when the creek doesn't make the turn to Schoharie Plank. It comes down Lincoln, or, straight down through Lincoln, and then it's gotta make the turn down to Schoharie Plank. Well, sometimes it gets so high, it doesn't make the turn. I've seen it come right down the street. And O'Rourke's kids were skimboarding in the middle of Schoharie Plank Road, if that tells you anything, how deep it gets. I ended up with Deb Katz's woodpile in that dip, which stopped my flow. So I took a rubber raft, got it to here, and put all the wood in the rubber raft so the water would just keep going into the creek. I don't know of anybody that can stop water that can flow like that. It's a natural saturated area. It's either clay, and then there's the dip. It's just the way, I don't know how it's gonna be changed, but I'm also concerned about that storm drain with my sump pump that's cemented in that storm drain. My basement has never been flooded, but I also built that 4-foot berm. And I've learned from the people in Florida how to let water just go by. I'm married to a plumber. We know how it goes. There's no stopping it. There's rerouting it. But you never know where it's going to be rerouted to. Right now, I'm secure. I've been here 30-some years and never had water in my basement. It goes around me. It goes around. So, as you know, I did put a letter in with a bunch of questions. My request at this point is that I get something in writing that addresses these questions from the board as well as the applicant. My husband's deaf, I'm dyslexic. If we have it in front of us, we know how our questions have been answered. So, thank you for hearing me. I appreciate your time and your concerns.
Thank you.
Is there anything that you would like me to address on this particular letter, or do you want me to read the questions? I know they were put online.
If you would like to read them to make it part of the public record, absolutely go right ahead.
It doesn't mean I need answers now. Like I said, I would like writing from the board, what the answers were, from the applicant as well as the board. Okay. Nope. The first question is, who's responsible for flooding or damages to our property caused by the CM Fox Living Solutions LLC? Where is the storm drain for the development of the road going to be put and drained to? When the creek gets high, the storm drain backfeeds. It backs up. Matter of fact, Larry just dug it out recently. Let's see. How wide is the total width of the road allowed to be? And also, there's a curb cut. You're going to need a curb cut. And then we're going to have a buffer zone. How much buffer zone between the roads and our property is going to be involved for us? Is there going to, let's see, where am I? Does a developer have flood insurance for the said road between the houses? It is in a floodplain. Every house on that road has to have insurance. Just because it's the road, does he have insurance? We don't know these answers. Is the development going to have an HOA? HOA. We don't want any part of that either. What are the developer's responsibilities? Where's the snow going to be plowed to? On our buffer zone that we were granted? If he puts up fences, we're okay with that, because then he's pushing the snow up against his fence, it stays within, and we maintain our buffer zone. Our fences gonna be put up to preserve our privacy, gonna be considered. I mean, we're within, a truck's gonna be going where that wall is, right past my bedroom. You know, whether it's, where's the garbage gonna go? The garbage trucks and pickup trucks, are they allowed on a private road? Is the developer responsible for trees that he's gonna be taking down that might fall on my property or fall on my roof? That's how close he is. Matter of fact, I got a couple tree branches hanging over on my roof from his property. Who's responsible for the buffer zone? Does the purpose of the developer and the access road meet village town code criteria? So that's pretty much it. Those are my concerns. I'm trying to protect what I've had, just to keep it the way it is. But thank you again.
One thing, Deb, on the one, I would certainly recommend, both for you and for the applicant, to take pictures of what exists now as far as your home is concerned. If you're concerned about a tree falling on it, take pictures of what it looks like now, and then if something does happen, you'll have proof that it wasn't that way prior to.
That makes sense.
Just one little note that I had here on this.
Well, it's not just a house, it's shed,
I know.
you know, whatever. Well, thank you very much for your time
Thank
and
you.
listening.
Anyone else?
Some map of the subdivision put up for everybody's general reference, as people are asking questions. Let me just get to that. Just so they can point, I have no idea what she's concerned about, there's no reference.
Hello and good evening. I'm Bill Vinson. I live at 133 Western. The last speaker just had a couple questions that I was going to ask, and if you could answer it, it'd be great. It's pretty much yes or no or in consideration. She said that the road is going to be a private road. Is that going to be private, or is it going to be owned by the village, you know, maintained and plowed?
The road that's coming onto West Cohary Plank will be a private road
Okay.
with an HOA.
And the road coming out to Western is going to be private as well?
If I could just, my understanding, and, you know, the applicant can correct me, it's going to be a shared driveway access off of Western Schoharie Plank Road.
Okay,
There's not gonna be an HOA. The driveway is constructed partially on, I believe it's 4 different lots. So there
Okay.
will be a road maintenance agreement between those property owners for maintenance of what's essentially a private driveway, a shared driveway.
sure, okay. And I'm sorry if I didn't make it to any of these meetings and get caught up on the latest, the progress here. But water and sewer, is that gonna be going back through there as well? Water, village water, you know, and sewer?
Yes.
Yes? And natural gas, is it gonna be natural gas lines going back there as well?
I don't know.
Or is that too early to say? Okay. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I got natural gas, I mean, I'm not, you know, too alarmed over it.
What was the answer on that, Troy?
That would be the plan.
Okay, thank you.
So there's no cul-de-sac gonna be back there, just gonna be going to the people's driveways, right? Okay. And, again, the last speaker mentioned about our privacy barrier, I was just hoping that it could be some kind of a privacy barrier. I moved in 21, 22 years ago, and I started my own little privacy barrier with the trees. They grew great, but there's gaps where they didn't grow, so there's gappy between, our property and the back,
So you're
portion.
talking about the rear property line?
Yeah.
Okay.
From my border, property line to,
His rear property
Right,
line on
yeah.
Western.
because I gotta go on both sides, the back and on the side where the roadway will be.
You're basically wide open as far as
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's all I had. So if, like I said, I apologize, not getting caught up to snuff on the progress from everything. I've ran in Detroit a couple times and just asked them how's progress and, so, all right, okay. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? This time? Do we want to give the applicant a chance to answer anything at this point if they can?
If you want, you can certainly offer that.
Just address a few things since.
And certainly if the board members have any questions.
Yeah, if no one, well, obviously, we're leaving the public hearing open right at this point, but, Ro, if you can answer any questions that were asked tonight, I know there have been updates to the landscaping plan and additions to that, but I also know that Brad still has a lot of concerns, especially about water. So. Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Gary Robinson. I live at 142 Western Ave. And I've been there about 30 years. And to confirm previous speakers' suspicions, we are in a floodplain. I'm right in the heart of the floodplain. And because I had the surveys done and all that, because, I have to pay flood insurance, even though my house isn't seem to be really as affected as other ones, especially on Schoharie Plank. When that floods, they get the brunt of it. Western Ave kind of acts as a swale, so it kind of pulls the water away from my house and basically goes down Western Ave to the creek. But, so that's kind of my concerns is, with this development coming in, how is that going to affect the hydrology of that whole area there? Since it's gonna obviously be affecting, the water table and possible drainage and all that kind of thing. Also, speaking of water, there's also been concerns about the village water supply. I mean, just recently they were saying, well, geez, our wells are getting really low. We had to shut down the Brandel well because of issues with that. So I think it's really important that we determine if it's going to be stressing the water supply before we start adding, 11 houses onto the village infrastructure. And that's beside my own selfish reasons for not wanting a development across the road from my house. I think village-wide, the village should be concerned that 11 houses are being added to the village infrastructure. So those are my main concerns, other than the stereotypical issues of, increased traffic and, safety. There's, children playing, and there's gonna be, increased traffic in the neighborhood and so on and so forth. Those are kind of like boilerplate issues that everybody brings up when a new development comes to town. But like I said, I think my main concerns is what it's going to do to the village as a whole. Even though I'm concerned about my neighborhood selfishly, I think those concerns should really be addressed and kind of determined before we put a development in there and say, oh geez, now what are we going to do because our wells are running dry. And other concerns. So that's my main concern, and hopefully those will be addressed, and hopefully you guys will take that under consideration before anything is decided. So thanks for your time.
Thank you.
If I can just speak to that for
Sure.
a moment. And, I'll encourage the board, we're gonna send these written comments, obviously the applicant will, get them and respond, but also to our engineer to be able to provide us with information that we need when we're evaluating these comments. But my understanding is that the village has done a comprehensive study of its water supply. And, these properties are located within the village, and the village is under a legal obligation to serve properties within the village before it can serve properties outside of the village. My understanding is that development within the village and potential development within the village was taken into account when that study was done. And the village uses that study to determine whether or not there's an adequate water supply for everyone within the village before it can make any decisions to serve anyone outside. So we'll have Brad review that and confirm, but I did want to say my understanding is that, the village has, already considered what the needs are within the village and determined that its water supply is sufficient for those purposes, and considers that every time they're asked to serve additional properties outside the village boundaries.
Thank you, Rose. Ro, do you want to come up and, after Rose speaks and, answer some questions? If anyone else wants to come back up, feel free.
Good afternoon, board, members of Altamont. My name is Ro Andres. I'm a project manager for Walrath Surveying. Just to address some of the questions that were formed here tonight, Mr. Connors, the landscaping buffer that we're proposing. Sorry. There we go. As far as your property, you're to the north here, correct? Adjacent to Lot 1. We are proposing that none of the trees that are existing there be touched at all with any construction activity. It's called out on page C-130. I believe the plan says online, our current set. Page C-130 will show that the entire area around this parcel not to be touched with construction activity. So hopefully, what is existing now,
Ro, can you speak more into
oh,
the mic,
yes.
please?
Hopefully what is existing now, as far as your line of sight, will not be at all disturbed.
My request was for evergreens along that.
So additional plantings you'd like to see along there, okay.
Are you
Let's
saying
see.
that's going to be done?
We will definitely look into it. We've added a substantial amount of landscaping to the plan per the TDE's requests. That's certainly something that we will look at, though, for your property. The turnaround, as you had concerns about, is shown on page C-130 as well. There's adequate space for emergency vehicles to access and then also exit the properties, both off of Schoharie Plank and Western Avenue. Let's see.
And that was something that was approved by our fire chief also. We got input from him. So that's not just something that we threw out
Another
there.
one plan had turnaround, but another plan didn't have turnaround.
That's right.
It's back.
That's right. Mrs. Johnson, drainage. That is something that we, as well as Brad, have been working and formulating on a good plan to not only protect the homes adjacent to this parcel, but also improve that area. And I think what we've put together on page C-140 does that. You were talking about a berm that you had built to kind of circumvent water coming into your property. Well, we've actually designed swales along this private access drive to do just that, to deter water from entering either side properties, and to divert it rather away from them. So that is on page C-140. Brad, also, the TDE had comments. We will be putting together another set of plans with revisions showing a more substantial plan for that as well. I will review your letter as well. I thank you for submitting that. Bill, the driveway concerns, page C-130, sorry, this is just the grading and drainage plan. C-130, the latest set has a more robust landscaping plan, again, along your edge of the property there that's adjacent to the private access drive. I believe we have some plantings along the rear as well, but I will look into that. Utilities, again, natural gas is planned to access these lots, and the privacy buffer. Again, we are looking to do this as sustainably as possible. We're not looking to go in there and clear cut. We're looking to do this in a manner that benefits everyone, neighbors alike. And Mr. Robinson, I believe Allison addressed your concerns about the water supply. I believe that goes for the same, for the sanitary as well. I forget the gentleman that, who had just retired here.
Jeff?
Oh, Jeff Mueller.
Mr. Mueller at our last meeting had said as such that, you know, it's planned to accommodate these new parcels within the village. I think that's everyone's concern. Again, if anyone else would like to come up, I'd be glad to try to answer your concerns.
Does anybody have any specific questions for Raul?
Yeah, you mentioned the drains on each side, or whatever you call them, on each side of the road.
Swales?
Where is it gonna flow?
Where is it going to flow to? Well, the plan is to, again, capture, if you look on C-140,
Here,
oh, actually, hold on, I can give you my say here.
you can take mine.
Yeah. Our goal with the addition of the vegetated swales along the north, as well as the individual rain gardens for each lot,
It takes up when the stream rise. And you're gonna divert all that into an 8-inch drain?
it's not all of it, portions of it. We're trying to capture as much water leaving the site within individual rain gardens for each lot, as well as, I believe this is a 700-foot vegetated swale along the north ends of these properties. The grading, the site is flat for anyone who's been out there, so the way that we grade the site will be
All four houses will go in catch basin.
not all four houses. Additionally, this is
Four houses that are going into the lot right now. That's all the storm drains are going to divert it into this catch basin?
No,
Is that what you're saying?
no.
no.
No, and we're actually adding an additional 2 structures here. We're really looking to make this area better than it is now for the issue of drainage.
How's that gonna affect my sump pump that's in that storm drain?
I can allow some questions and stuff, but we can't have just everybody
Yeah,
yelling things out. I can't allow.
I understand what you're doing.
Point of order, both the applicant's representative and any other should be reporting to the board.
Dean, if you want to say something, come up and say it officially, please.
I didn't want to interject earlier, but this is already starting to degrade a little bit to your point. Just as general reference, any public coming before the board needs to talk to the board as well as the engineer.
I mean,
This is exactly how things degenerate very quickly.
the chairwoman invited, there's a a manageable group of people here. The chairwoman invited people, if they had any additional questions while Ro was standing up here.
But
if they
again, he
wanted
should
to
be
ask
reporting
us.
to the board.
Okay. The chairwoman is running the meeting and will continue to do that. Okay.
Deb, did you want me to take a microphone to her so that can be recorded? Or ask them to stand up?
I mean, unless Ms. Johnson has any additional questions, we have the written questions that you've provided. Those will be submitted as part of the record.
I know what Kim is saying. He's saying, are you going to divert all the water? And that's not the plan. So maybe you could elaborate a little bit on that?
He probably can't hear him anyway, so this is why he's deaf.
I know.
So this is why he's speaking out of kilter.
So I think we understand. I think I understand the question is that we need to understand if the water from the 4 proposed lots with access off of Schoharie Plank Road, if the stormwater is some way being diverted towards the existing catch basin.
It backs up right now with the heavy rain.
Okay.
Now you've got 4 houses draining through there, but that's how our yard's gonna get flooded.
And then, Ro, can you explain, I think what you were explaining is that the way the site is being graded is to, I think, mimic the natural stormwater flows, but also with the addition of enhanced stormwater management features that are gonna be added to the site as part of the project. So maybe, if that's correct, Ro, you can just confirm that and then explain again why the stormwater plan, for lack of a better word, is not diverting the stormwater from those 4 lots into that catch basin. I think that's what you were explaining before.
That's correct,
Okay.
yes. The 4 houses here, the drainage will be capturing within individual rain gardens within the lot. The area here, the grading that we have proposed with vegetated swales, that is to capture any sort of runoff from the private driveway access. With the grading that we're doing, pitched into 2 catch basins, that should improve your area. And as you said, you built a berm, and no rain has entered your house, your basement. That's exactly what we're looking to do. Again, mimic the natural drainage of the site with additional stormwater management practices. We're looking to generally improve this area.
If it backs up when the creek gets hot and you're flowing more water towards that catch basin that's inadequate as it is, it doesn't, it's like putting a small bucket with 10 gallons of water.
I have an invert of your 3-inch PVC from your sump pump at an elevation of 410.
But when the creek gets high, it's like a gusher. It back feeds up through the storm drain, even with high rains now.
I can't connect to the Wi-Fi network. You might want
Yes,
to
Gary.
connection settings in the Google
I
Home.
wanted to suggest that maybe if the village DPW would allow a backflow prevention device on the outfall end of the creek, so if the creek does rise, that closes, it won't allow water back in. It will come out, but it won't allow it in. And that may be something to consider too, for their sump pump line into the catch basin outfall. And then it'll be kind
Still
of like
flows
double
into the
protection.
lawn.
That's a great idea.
Property.
Excuse me, I didn't.
When the storm drain backflows, it's like a geyser. It just comes up. When it comes up, some goes in our front lawn, some back feeds into his property.
So they make a device that goes on the end of those lines. If the creek were to rise, the device wouldn't allow the water from the high level of the creek to travel up the pipe and back up into the catch basin. It'll stop it at the creek before it even gets in there.
You're talking about a back check valve.
Yes.
Clean it. What happens when you get the normal You go down the road, you get pebbles and stuff down in there, even though it's squared down, it's supposed to be, what's it, sediment track. It hasn't been cleaned out in forever that I know of.
Yeah,
You
they
get
do.
pebbles down there, you say you get your backflow pebbles in, you get pebbles in there. it's
Dean,
not gonna stop and the pebbles can't-
You're being disruptive of the public hearing, and I'd appreciate it if you would hold your comments, but if you have comments about the application, of course, you're welcome to.
Has not been addressed. They are not on record right now.
They are on record, Dean.
How?
Okay.
The one thing I would
I
say
can't
is
hear
that
about
if we
what they're
want it
asking.
to be recorded, it really makes a difference with the microphone, so.
Okay. You know,
See, right now, with the
Go up to
dome,
the, go up to next to him, go up next to him, because they can't hear you. But remember, he's deaf, he wears cochlear implant, so you might have to repeat what you have to say.
yes, my name's Kim Johnson, Deb's husband. Right now, where there's no houses in back, when it rains, there's a natural slope of the land which drops off about 5, 6, 7 feet, which catches the lower end of Bozenkill Creek that comes through there. With the 4 houses development and the blacktop driveway coming back, and you're gonna have all these storm drains and the blacktop, the road, the driveway coming back. You got that higher volume of water that's gonna head right towards our, scary plank and it's gonna back up. Why can't he get a storm drain that goes down to follow the natural slope of the land and catch the creek as it flows? It goes to our house, then it goes behind our house down to 45, and you know where it comes out on Gun Club Road. Why can't you put a storm drain in there? It'll alleviate a lot of these headaches.
I think you're talking to me
Yeah,
anyway.
well,
So
you're the closest guy.
So let me try and answer. I think especially with those 4 houses and the way the driveways are going to be graded and sloped, everything is gonna go to those rain gardens in the back. That's the whole object of having those, to alleviate anything that's gonna try and come the other way. It's gonna take all that and put it in the back of there. It's the way that I read it. It's on the map. And so, and I believe you do have other storm sewer or whatever that's going to go in there. So it's not like it's gonna be going all directly to yours. There are other receptacles, and like with that swale in the back and those rain gardens, that's exactly what they're supposed to do, is to take on that runoff. And I think on one of these, I forget which one, but the driveways also are going to be constructed and swaled, or, swaled for lack of a better term, to run a certain way, is to go back towards that or to whatever drainage they're going to have per property.
Here's where the catch basin is. That catch basin is below. You have,
Mhm.
the road is this high from over
Mhm.
here to be built up. The actual top of the catch basin is here. Here's the bottom of the catch basin. You got it's 200 foot from here, and how many feet here? You're not gonna have any pitch on it. It's gonna be like standing.
Well, as I
water.
said though, that road is being constructed to have pitch. That's not all gonna go towards that one big catch basin.
So you say, these houses, the road or the driveway is gonna go back here, 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 and here. And are they gonna have storm drains where here?
I'm just going by that I've seen as far as,
Is it gonna
yeah.
just be one storm drain? Everything is gonna be sloped into that storm drain, and everything is funneled down into this catch basin?
I'm gonna have Roe, because
Our plan is for these 4 houses,
The 4 houses, yes.
yep, as well as their access to
Right.
here, have any storm runoff be pitched away into the individual rain gardens for each lot, as well as into the vegetated swale that we planned back here.
So you say you're gonna slope most of this away, so how many storm drains are actually gonna be coming this way? How many storm drains are gonna be here to tie in the line, but you're gonna have virtually no pitch coming from way back here? You got 200 foot, plus this, you could literally be 300 or 400 foot away And you're gonna have, maybe this much to drop.
That's right. So these driveways here will have storm culverts, culvert crossings across the driveway. Anything from here on in will be pitched along a swale,
So
along a
this is-
crown driveway.
This is a storm drain,
No,
or is these?
these items here. Everything else will be pitched back away from these
Are the
houses.
driveways gonna be like this?
Crowned,
Or they're gonna
correct.
be-
Yep,
I mean, the way to go up here is you have to wait and see what happens. Now what happens if this comes down, oh, this comes down this way, now my front lawn gets flooded out again. Who's gonna be responsible for that?
I understand the concern, and that is part of this design process. We're trying to design this in such a way that is not an issue going forward.
Then too bad you just go to burn down here, cause the creek goes right by here, you could take it down to the creek.
Well, we are. A lot of this drainage here is going to this swale. Along here with the discharge area with,
See, is this a pipe that's gonna be here, or is this the net, oh, so it's
That's right.
gonna be another storm drain here?
That's right.
Somewhere.
Yep.
Well, that'll help some, but you're not gonna know until you get a good storm. You know, it all looks good on paper until reality hits.
sure.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Did that help at all?
Oh, I looked up, yes, I think.
Is there a way to like summarize it or anything like that? Because I'm not sure that any of what,
Absolutely. The main concern is that this catch basin here along Schoharie Plank Road will be overburdened with the proposed drainage as well as the stormwater practices that we've designed here. Our goal is to mitigate any runoff in this area by pitching them towards our practices, the individual rain gardens, as well as the drainage swale along the northeast side of the parcels here off of Schoharie Plank Road. There's another drainage swale for the houses off of Western that will be doing the same. Again, all in an effort to decrease runoff to any adjacent property, as well as mitigate any sort of water issues that you folks may have already.
I've got a question. I noticed that in the latest iteration, you have two downspouts connecting to rain gardens, which you didn't have before.
Yep.
My question is, we're relying rather heavily on the rain gardens and the swales to absorb water. How do these work when the ground is frozen?
Well, good question, Simon. The downspout connections were actually a comment that was raised by the TDE. He said he'd like to see the houses connect to these rain gardens in such a way that would further mitigate the runoff potential here. So when the ground is frozen, we're hoping there isn't going to be any runoff until there is a melt. And when there is a melt, the draining, or excuse me, the grading that we've done on site will alleviate the soils in such a way that they will follow a natural path of drainage.
And the natural path is to the northeast?
In such a way that if you look at the existing contours here that are present on C-140 as well as C-100, you've got a natural pitch. Let's just use this contour here along the Schoharie Plank Road of 412. Give or take another 200 feet up, you're gaining 2 feet in elevation. From there, you're actually breaking 6 feet or so to the northeast. So from this portion, I would say the center area of lots 5, 6, 7, and 8, you're having some of the drainage split towards Carhay Plank, and a majority of it moved towards the proposed swales that we've graded here.
Okay, thank you.
Question, when you design these swales, in a 24-hour period or storm, what kind of rainfall are you designing for?
That's a good question. So, as part of the New York State DEC regs, this being a parcel of disturbance less than 5 acres, we've put together a modified storm management report that we submitted along, I believe it was back in September 23, with the initial submission of this project for the zoning variance. That has stormwater practices that are implemented that design towards a 100-year storm event. Not that that's needed, but it's to give a level of a factor of safety to again mitigate any runoff in this development here.
Okay, so
Was that
To
in this
sum-
Yes, yep, that should be in there.
to summarize, I think in inches of rain in a 24-hour period, or it could be an hour.
I would have to get back to you on a specific number, but I can certainly do that.
Okay, my other question is, what is the footprint or the size of the roof or the footprint of the house? Because that's where we're talking about runoff.
Absolutely.
Something that's impervious.
I guess that's a variable, depending on what the client chooses to build on. Is there an idea that you have?
Because that will take into design of the swale in one particular house. It may be bigger or smaller on another piece of property.
Absolutely. There are numbers. Okay, at the bottom of C-140, we have stormwater management considerations. And below, we have an acreage of disturbance, excuse me, as well as an area of impervious. That taking into consideration the driveways as well as the houses that are on this plan. So if you're looking for dimensions, I believe these houses range from 40 by 50. Some are rectangular. You can see some are a little bit more obtuse.
14 by 50, you said, or?
40 by 50, but they vary,
Right.
you know, depending on the lot here.
But the areas of the driveways are, it looks like in some cases could be greater than the areas of the houses. And they are going to also have an impervious surface.
And those are taken into consideration to this number here.
That's your 1.06.
Correct. That's all of your driveways and the roofs of these proposed houses.
And do the driveways, do the flow off the driveways? You have swales off the common driveway, but you don't, I didn't see an indication of swales off the individual driveways. So how is water that falls in the driveways managed?
Good question. And that's right. For the shared access driveways, the roadways, the driveways there will be crowned in such a way to pitch and divert water to either side of the driveway. The individual lots, we're heavily relying on the grading of these houses, again, to capture either by the rain garden or to divert them to the proposed swales there. There'll just be a normal driveway as you would see, you know, across the village.
Are you talking line of plan or water?
Yes. No, I was, what do you mean 9, 10,
Well,
11?
those lots, I'm just wondering how they're going to handle the runoff on those lots.
Oh.
Those 3 individual lots, I thought that's what you meant.
Well,
He's talking about
a
the
good point.
individual
I was
driveways
looking
on
at the, I was looking at the eastern houses. But the rain gardens, the stats I saw is you have, the rain garden dimensions are like 1/10 of the area that you want to, of your impervious area. And once you add the areas of the driveways, that gets to overwhelm these little things.
Which is, again, the reason that we've, in addition to these individual rain gardens, proposed these large vegetative
Sure.
swales.
Sure.
Anybody else? Have any questions for anybody? Anyone in the audience want to come back up? Mr. Connor? Come right up.
Thank you for addressing my concerns about evergreens along this back area here, behind lots 1 and 2, this little section here as well. Question, would it be possible to put evergreens behind the swale? Is there any reason that that would be not allowed? I'm pointing to the swale behind lots 1 and 2. Could there be evergreens behind that?
The addition of evergreens behind this swale here would actually push us into this tree line. What's shown here is the existing, it's a mix of deciduous and coniferous trees along here. The addition of that may actually have us cut into that buffer. We're not against giving you some additional screening here, but I'll have to look at it before I can.
Okay, thank you. Or consider moving the swale up a little bit, too. The other question I had is the whole issue about what you refer to as a private access drive, the entry on Western Avenue. Can you give me an update about whether or not the sale of land from the neighbor went through to allow that extra frontage space?
The lot line adjustment?
This was the private access drive from Western Avenue. In order for there to be frontage consistent with the current zoning law, there had to be a sale of land from the neighbor, a strip of land. I forget how wide it was. So I was wondering if that sale went through or not.
That sale has not closed. It's contractually dependent on the approval of this project.
So
here.
the lot line adjustments are part of the major subdivision plat that we're reviewing right now. And we do have authorizations from those property owners that were submitted early on in the application process at the board's request to demonstrate that they, were authorizing the developer's representative to pursue this lot line adjustment with their parcels.
Okay, but the sale hasn't been finalized.
No.
Correct.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Board, are you all good? Just because alternates, you can still ask questions. Chuck, any questions? Anyone else?
Thank you, Board. We'll be back in front of you with the revised set of plans with comments addressed from your TDE, as well as hopefully addressing some concerns from the residents here.
I don't know if you saw, though, that there were pictures that were sent in from another neighbor. They're out on the website, aren't they, Ginger, the pictures? So maybe, take a look at those, and, because they're in black and white, you can't really tell what it is. But it kind of gives you an idea of what it looks like there when we get really heavy rains and snow runoff.
Okay, great. Thank you, Board.
I don't want to She may not be here, but I want to make sure that she knows that we're seeing this and, are taking it into consideration.
All the written comments that were received by the board, even if the commenter wasn't available to attend tonight, will be included with the record. And we will include Mr. Connor's prior correspondence, make sure it's part of the record on the subdivision as well.
What is the board's feeling about, do we have enough to close the public hearing, or would we like to leave the public hearing open, just in, light of Brad's questions? I know Mr. Connor's wife hasn't had a chance to review some things.
Do we know, was the public hearing notice sent, for the public's benefit, we have done another referral to the Albany County Planning Board. A referral was done to them early on in the process when the board was considering the variance application. The county planning board responded at that time, but suggested that when it came time for the board's review of the subdivision plat, there should be another referral. So we have done that referral, don't have the response back yet from the county. Did we also send the public hearing notice to the town of Guilderland?
We did not send it directly. We
Okay.
did, request from the town of Guilderland, the list of neighbors, so they are
Okay.
aware that, we were requesting that,
Okay,
we didn't send a formal notice.
okay,
It was posted in the paper as well. So
Yeah.
it was-
if we are making revisions to the subdivision plat, and the applicant, is gonna provide responses to the comments, and those will be part of the record anyway. But if the applicant is going to make revisions to the plat, it may make sense for us to leave the public hearing open, just to give everyone an opportunity to review those revisions. And then at the same time, we can make sure a notice of the public hearing continued at the next meeting goes to the town of Guilderland. And then at that point, we will also, I assume, have the response from the county referral back that we can discuss and share with the public. And the board can always choose to close the public hearing that night and begin its deliberations if it feels it's in a position to start doing that, so you may not lose any, additional time.
How does the board feel about leaving the public hearing?
I think we should.
I agree, we
Then
should
have
keep it
a
open.
motion to leave public hearing. Do we have a motion?
To continue the public hearing at the next meeting.
Next meeting. Ginger, what's our next scheduled date? Can't find my- I had this one. It is 23rd? Yeah. here it is. Okay, then, could I have a motion to continue the public hearing and keep it open until April 23rd, 2024?
So moved?
Danny, a second?
Second.
Robert? Roll call, please.
Okay, so,
Not the alternates.
Board Member Lemire,
In favor?
Board Member Litton,
In favor.
Board Member Freeman,
In favor.
and Board Member Wickham.
In favor?
Chairperson,
In favor.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next item on our agenda is to review the minutes from February 27th, 2024. Does anybody have anything on that? I didn't really get a chance to look over them really well, but I did look at them. And I didn't really see anything that stood out.
I never saw them.
It was sent out, basically on the board, before the presentation, so I'm not sure. And, address that.
We can hold it off till the next meeting to review those. Okay, anything else? Does the board have anything else they'd like to talk about? Any new business, old business? Anything?
What came to mind, off the subject there, reviewing or going over the codes, electric bikes being now popular and prevalent, as to reassuring, is there any code on that in the village?
There's codes when it comes to bicycles as far as, 14 and under have to be on, have to have helmets and can ride on a sidewalk, and anyone over 14 are supposed to ride on a sidewalk. I don't know if anything specifically addresses electric bikes or mopeds, or, I mean, I know, I've seen them on the sidewalks. Yeah. That would be something that the village board would have to take into consideration if they wanted to change the ordinance to include electric bikes and when they can be used and where they can be used.
Well, just for pedestrian safety.
I'll let the village board know that it was brought up.
Thank you.
Tressa's not here, she had moved, Okay. Thank you, everyone. I hope that we answered some questions, and please feel free, send us your questions, send us your pictures. Things are gonna come up, and, we'll get something out there on the website as quickly as possible, and we'll get the answers from both RTE and, from CM Fox.
And just, if I can just add to that, Deb, the public hearing is for the members of the public to make comments so that they can be received into the record and the board can consider them as it makes its deliberations. We had a very good group tonight, a lot of good questions. And luckily, we had the applicant on hand. He was able to answer some of those questions on the spot. But it really is to memorialize your comments for the record and not to, submit questions with the expectation of answers. Certainly, I think we've answered a lot tonight, and I think that there are some questions here that the applicant has indicated he can provide responses to. But just be assured, if you've made the comments tonight, they're already part of the record, and they will be considered by the board when it comes to deliberating on the application.
Thank you. Okay, if there's nothing else, could I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Danny? Second, please.
Second.
Whoa. And second by Adam. Okay. Second. Roll call, please.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor?
In favor. Thank you, everyone.